Everything old is new again. Nostalgia has become the driving force in mass culture today. Trends in modern media all reflect this desire to return to a simpler time and reconstruct the past, or at least our mind's eye version of what the past looks like. And at the same time, popular entertainment has become more conservative and less likely to take risks with new and unconventional concepts. The shareholders who determine whether a movie, game, or album gets made demand that their investment returns greater and greater profit. And this makes it harder to get funding for new ideas and intellectual properties, which are less likely to see a high return on investment. And this all-consuming need to play it safe in the name of maximizing profit has led to the modern craze of resurrections and reboots of your favorite franchises, preferably ones that are part of an extended universe. But what if nostalgia could be used as a tool to create new experiences and emotions, instead of providing us with a comforting reminder of things we already like? What if the past could inspire us with a new context for old ideas? Hyper Light Drifter, the debut release from Studio Heart Machine Games, shows us how to escape the nostalgia trap. It's a game that has almost no new ideas, yet is still undeniably fresh and relevant. See, Hyper Light Drifter borrows or outright steals from some of the best-known video games and sci-fi fantasy works of the last 2 decades. And the game is so straightforward about its callbacks that it's kinda charming. You've got robocentric art from anime like Nausicaa and Evangelion. The excellent soundtrack by Disasterpeace is a direct homage to Vangelis, the synth composer who scored Blade Runner. The storytelling is understated and environmentally driven, a method popularized by games like Dark Souls. And the gameplay recalls the hyperactive pace of character action games like Ninja Gaiden and Devil May Cry. All of this game's ideas were derived from something else that came before it, right down to the done-to-death retro pixel art style. But from the wordless opening right through to the equally silent conclusion, Hyper Light Drifter presents a tableau that is familiar and well-worn, yet still fresh and compelling. These individual elements, the soundtrack, the presentation, the gameplay, form a whole that really is greater than the sum of its parts. The resonant, synth-heavy soundtrack creates an aura of mystery and wonder. The world is washed in bright, Miami Vice neon purples and blues. You tap the attack and dash buttons in counterpoint to the beat, as your eyes observe rich, detailed artwork. You die, over and over and over again. Reloading after death is instantaneous, which keeps the pace brisk, but the drifter still takes a few moments to get back on his feet, as if to say, take a moment to reflect on where you went wrong. There's no dialogue or explicit exposition. The story and scenery slowly unfold as you complete light puzzles and carve a path across a semi-open world, Zelda style. The game's punishing difficulty level recalls the finger-blistering action of the arcade and early home console era. Environmental flourishes like moss-covered robots and soldiers encased in crystal hint at a familiar story: technological hubris gone terribly wrong. For the children of the 80s and 90s, this iconography was and still is rocket fuel for our imaginations. This reverence for the past perfectly captures the spirit of our modern culture, where derivative works and remixes are king. No doubt, a lot of these derivative works are pandering crap.
Do you bleed?
But some aspire to be something greater. Like its titular drifter, this game has traversed the radioactive wastes of pop culture and returned with an armful of precious artifacts from the before times. Hyper Light Drifter is utterly shameless in how it remixes and rearranges the past to create something familiar that still feels new and compelling. This is a beautiful thing. If you want a comparison to the music world, Hyper Light Drifter is to video games as Metro Boomin is to rap.
If young Metro don't trust you, I'm gonna shoot you. Beautiful.
Metro is a very young producer who is already a certified next big thing in rap, putting in chart-topping work for stars like Future and Kanye West. If you're at all a fan of video games, or even just electronic music in general, Metro is one of the most exciting things to happen to rap in a long time. Now, this is a topic that deserves its own essay, but over the last decade, rap music has trended towards synthesizers and production that has a distinctly video game-influenced sound. And this is true whether you're listening to big names like Jay-Z and Drake, or up-and-comers like Rich Homie Quan. With Southern rap in particular, we're seeing a new generation of artists rapping over beats that sound like they're ripped from 90s game consoles. And this makes sense. Rappers and producers who grew up with video games are now becoming tastemakers. Take Karate Chop, a track that Metro composed for fellow ATLian Future on his 2014 album Honest. The beat sounds like it was composed on a Game Boy or NES soundboard, but this retro aesthetic was given new life by Future, one of the best rappers in the game. Metro Boomin took something old and made it new. You see, nostalgia doesn't have to be a dead end. Even remixes can be original works of art. In the same way, Hyper Light Drifter does not reconstruct the past, it recontextualizes it. It uses familiar elements and ideas as touchstones, as a shared language between the game and its audience. It then presents these ideas in a new context, giving them fresh life. The plot of the game even hints at this cyclical interplay, this push and pull between the past and present, with the recurring visions of an Anubis-like jackal who leads the drifter onward. The game is a truly unique combination of past and present, of minimalism and bombast, moments of frantic action followed by scenes of stark and quiet contemplation. It conjures up the ghosts of the past not out of sugary nostalgia, but as a kind of visual shorthand that compels us to dive deeper into the game's world, and that lingers in your mind long after the credits roll. Everything old is new again.